Good morning/afternoon to y'all, depending where you're coming from. Mary Jo here with Advantage Strategy Consulting in my new series about the power tools you need in your leadership toolbox. I am live right now and we'll be recording this and it'll stay up on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and YouTube at the completion of this. So I'm going to just give it a minute while people are hopefully joining potentially. If not, no big deal. I know a lot of people catch up on these things later. So it is a amazingly beautiful, practically spring day in Chicago. And by spring, I mean it's like 45. But warm enough to wear shorts in Chicago. You think I'm kidding if you're not from here, but hoodie and shorts, totally acceptable. I want to spend a little time reviewing today what this Power Tools series is about and then get into our topic at hand. So this is our second in a series about the Power Tools. You can build a house the Amish way and do everything by hand, use only hand tools, and it's going to take you a while to get there. And a lot of experimenting about what the best way is and how to do this more efficiently. But there's power tools available that a lot of craftsmen use that make it more efficient, that do a better job than you can do by hand. If you're screwing in something by hand, if you switch over to your power tool, you're going to get a little bit more grip. You're going to get a little bit more of a tight fit. You're going to be able to have a stronger connection when you use your power tools versus just your hand tools. So that's what this is all about. Every leader has a set of tools in their toolbox that they rely on in leading their teams and developing vision and things like that. And we need a set of power tools that really make us the most effective leaders, that take us to a place of inspiring action rather than just demanding it. And that's what the series is going to be all about. Getting to know how to use these tools correctly and achieve greater success with them more quickly. So today's topic is about authenticity. And it sounds easy to say and maybe obvious to say you need to be authentic to be a great leader. But I think there's a lot of people who don't do this today and are hesitant. And there's also a lot of us that were taught to not be ourselves in a professional environment, or we're taught that they have to be different in order to be considered management material. And I work directly with a lot of women that I think we're also taught as women that we need to behave differently, that we shouldn't be a girl in a professional environment. We have to be stronger. We have to be different. We can't cry. You can't do a lot of things that maybe our natural tendency would be. And I don't find this to be something that lends itself to being a great leader. I think you need to be who you are and own it completely to be a strong leader that inspires people to follow you, to achieve the results with you that you're striving for. So authenticity is important, I think, to everybody in your leadership circle. It is important to your team that you lead to be able to know and trust you. It's important to the leaders that you work with, the people who maybe manage you, who are above you, or that you just have a relationship as, following them as leaders, so that they also understand you and know what you want and can help you achieve more as well. It's important to those of you who work with clients, whether you're in maybe a nonprofit situation and you're working directly with people who maybe have a need that you're filling, or if you are, and same with government, or if you're in business and you have clients in order to achieve revenue, right? Either way, those clients need to trust you in order to get the response you want, whether that's investing in you or buying your product, or it's trusting that you have their best interest in mind and at heart, so that they can maybe feel a little vulnerable around you to express what they need. And one of the things I think is not often enough talked about when it comes to authenticity is that it's really important for you personally and your own well-being to be authentic. I'll tell you a little story in a few minutes when we circle back to this topic, but when you wear a mask all the time, it can be very draining. So for your own personal health and physical and mental well-being, just being yourself is always the right answer. So why ultimately is this important? There's a few reasons I think that being very open and authentic and being yourself leads you to being a great leader. And I'll start with trust. If you aren't already aware, I am an authorized partner in two things with a firm called Wiley, the 5 behaviors model, which is built upon the work of Patrick Lencioni and his consulting group, the Table Group, and the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And the other thing I'm a licensed partner in is Everything Disc. So I wanted to talk a little bit about 5 behaviors because I think this is where trust and everything I said about who this impacts, who your authenticity impacts, comes down to trust. And what kind of impact trust has on your team, and the basic principle of why this is important. So when we talk about the 5 behaviors of a team, of a cohesive team, great teams ultimately trust one another on a completely fundamental and emotional level. And this, as you'll see at the bottom, trust is the building block of everything that comes up after this for a team. And without trust, all the other things aren't available. So one of the big things that they talk about in 5 dysfunctions of a team is that the trust, this fundamental level of trust that's needed, comes largely from vulnerability. And you have to just be able to be open. I love that it says without filters, because one of the things that I may be known for is not having the best filter at all times. But I own that. And when I've been told that that's not the right way to behave, I've chosen to move forward with maybe a shade of a filter, but always being myself. So you have to be open and vulnerable with your team and with the people that you want to trust you in order to gain this trust. Now, what happens when you have this strong sense of trust in your team is that it builds into the next levels. When you have this foundation of trust, you can have open and productive conflict. You have to be able to have dialogue about things that are hard. Otherwise, everyone's avoiding the thing in the room, the big elephant, and you never get resolution, you never get great solutions, and you never get things done. So without trust, you can't have this productive conflict. It will generally deteriorate into attacking or unhealthy conflict or outright avoidance. The next thing that comes when you have trust is commitment. When you trust each other, you can equally be vulnerable, open, less vulnerable, more open, to commit to working together and working towards a common goal. That after you get through having productive conflict, you have to commit to what you come out on the other side. And if you don't trust each other, that commitment isn't going to happen. And then once you have commitment, what grows from there is accountability. And again, without trust, you can't speak up and hold each other accountable. It falls completely on the leader to hold people accountable, and it becomes very difficult without the commitment, without the open dialogue, and without trust to keep people accountable without it turning into a carrot and stick and punishment and things like that. Accountability doesn't need to be that. Accountability that is built upon trust is that you have that same thing that when you would get in trouble and your mom would tell you, wait till your father gets home. And your heart would sink because you knew that you were going to be held accountable and you were so worried about what that accountability means. Maybe you're worried about getting hit with the wooden spoon. I don't know. But what a lot of us go through is that it's this fear of disappointing. You don't want to disappoint somebody that you love and trust so much. When you have that trust, accountability is a different tool than carrot and stick. And the last part that comes in this pyramid are results. You set aside individual needs, you focus on this common goal that you guys have set together. And when everybody trusts each other and your team inherently trusts you as the leader, then everyone is driving towards that common goal and achieving results. So that's where I think it's so important to, oh no, so much going on. Where it's so important that we are very trusting and we gain the trust of our teams, of our leaders, and of our clients by being authentic, open, and vulnerable. The other thing I want to say is that the big reason, while trust is, I think, the most important, when you are not authentic, people may not automatically not trust you, but it's going to throw up a red flag. And these red flags are really important for people who tend to think more emotionally, who tend to be more responsive to making decisions with their gut and their instincts, especially. And I'm one of these people that if I sense you're not being totally forthcoming with me, or that you're holding something back, or that you're wearing a mask, I get very wary. And I will not trust you immediately. Trust will take a lot longer to get there. But also, I'm going to be wondering in the back of my head while we're talking, what are you hiding? And it may not be anything malicious, it may not be anything bad. It might simply be that you're not comfortable and you're trying to put on this different mask of, I'm a professional, I'm a leader. But if it's not who you are and you're doing it in an inauthentic way, it's going to give people a lot of pause and make them pull back from you and try and figure out what's going on. So it's not that the flip side of not being authentic is lack of trust automatically. Trust comes very slowly. And even if people start to trust you because you show expertise, because you demonstrate a lot of good things, there's always going to be a question in the back of people's minds of why don't I get a sense that this person's being honest with me? And when you're inauthentic, it feels like dishonesty to the person that you're interacting with. So it's important that we are always authentic to who we are so you don't have that perception, because you may just be trying to act what you find and have been told to be professional, but it's going to feel dishonest. So another reason I think that it's so important that we are authentic as leaders is that divergence when you are trying to mask and be someone different and as a leader and fill what your thought is, what you've been told a leader should be. When you're trying to be that and it's not who you are, it takes a lot of work. You're living almost two different lives and two different experiences, and you're putting a lot of time and energy into creating that image that takes a toll on you after a while. It's a lot to wear a mask all the time. And some of you may know, who know me well, that I play and dabble in local politics. I'm an elected official in my community. I'm a village trustee and held a position before this as the township supervisor for 4 years. And in the beginning, as I was finding my feet in this local political world, I felt like I had to have this image. And there are a lot of people who had something to tell me about how I should be and what I should do and how I should act. And what I eventually came to is that it was so taxing to be that other person and try and fulfill everyone else's expectations that it was mentally draining. I was exhausted and I felt beaten up all the time. So what I found was, and I'll give you a specific example, I needed to just be me and people responded better. So as I was newly elected, I posted on Facebook, F cancer, because a friend of mine had lost someone dear to him. And I love him, and it hurt to see him so sad. And cancer has robbed me of both of my parents. And I was upset. And that was the sentiment, F cancer. And I had somebody call me and tell me that it was unladylike and not befitting someone who's elected to use such language on Facebook. And that was, that's right, Vanessa. That was a turning point for me because it was somebody I didn't know well, someone I didn't really even have a lot of respect for. And I lost all respect for her in that moment because she was telling me to be someone I was not. And I was emotional, I was upset, and she was telling me that I was not doing the right thing because I was being me. And in that moment, I realized that I needed to stop doing what other people expected of me. So I unfriended her, I blocked her, I texted her that I just like experienced some trauma and that she was completely out of line in telling me any of this. Not surprisingly, she hasn't spoken to me since. But I truly don't care because it was destroying me mentally to try and be somebody else. And I have been far happier. And I feel like I've achieved more and built stronger relationships in between governmental bodies with people that I know and people I've met just campaigning because I'm just who I am. And if you don't like that I swear, I'm sorry, don't vote for me. Because I swear, I do that. I do it a lot. It's how I survived engineering as a chick. That's that's. I'll talk about that in another video at some point. But it's too draining to spend that kind of time doing this. And Vanessa, yes, she didn't get it. She didn't need to get it. I was done with her. she didn't get to tell me how I should behave. I also believe in karma, and she did not win re-election. So I felt like that was karma coming full circle for me. Not to be vengeful. So why do you need to be authentic? Do it for yourself. Do it for your team. Build trust, and leadership grows from there. So what can you do to be authentic? It sounds silly, just be you, right? You know how to be you, you know what to do, but you've also had all these other things thrown at you your whole career and your whole life of how you should act and what you should do and what's professional, what's not professional. So what do you need to do? What are some things you can do for yourself to help overcome some of those blocks to be more confident and just own who you are? So first off, know thyself. I'm a huge proponent, and I've said this in another video. I'll link to it later. To taking assessments and personality and style assessments and strengths and everything you can possibly get your hands on. So I've done Myers-Briggs, I've done Strengths Finder, and I've done DISC. And have I mentioned I'm an authorized partner in DISC? But I've done all of these, and every time it reveals something that I know about myself, but I've never thought of in a specific way, or how I can use that in how I communicate, how I lead, how I live my political life, how I live my personal life. I'm always uncovering some aspect of my personality and my style that helps me grow. So really exploring those things, I find to be extremely helpful. And again, be you. Duh. Maybe you have to be a more professional version of you, but don't wear a mask and be somebody else. Don't try and meet someone else's expectations of what a leader is. Use your strengths and what you have to offer to be a leader, to build relationships, to manage a team, to grow your team members individually. So I have been an engineer, a project manager, a program manager in the federal government, led multi-million-dollar initiatives. I led a call center during the Hurricane Katrina response. I was a vice president of an engineering firm. I managed a team of almost 40, and I think most of my team still really likes me. A lot of you out there watching are probably former people that like I work with. So I was always myself. I learned that I have to be me. Um, and maybe swearing isn't the most professional, so you can dial that down. Doesn't mean I didn't let it fly every once in a while. I also found out that I laugh really loud, and you can hear me down the row, and I was okay with that. Like, my boss could hear me in the other corner of our office laughing. I'm okay with the fact that I laugh loud. It's who I am, and it kinda became my thing, and literally was something people told me they were going to miss when I left my last company. I'm a smartass. I don't know if you've gotten that from me yet, but I think using my humor, um, maybe not going so far as to be a total smartass and a complete wise ass in a professional environment, but using my humor in a similar way is still being me. I still wanna have meetings that are funny. I still wanna enjoy talking to people. I still wanna just have a little fun in everything, and that's, I think, what's made me unique in my professional career and why I really have been lucky to have a lot of people who worked for me who enjoyed the experience and stay connected with me for years. So um, I don't think it's healthy to try and live up to other people's expectations. I got called out only once, I would say, for being me. Um, and I totally own that. And I was told literally the words that were used was developing a mask, how I need to behave differently in the professional environment and mask a lot of those other characteristics. And I tried and I hated it. So I stopped. And it could potentially be limiting for me. But I think people who know me, who take the time and understand and trust me because I'm authentic, put that aside. They look at me and they see the wise ass, funny, sweary chick, and they say, she's kind of funny. I like her. I could talk to her. I could work with her. She's got a good vision too. I like where she's going. She's helped me so much through humor, through everything that's authentic to her. I do the things that people need. I lead my team and I give them the resources that they need. And if I say the F word along the way, nobody really seemed to mind. It's who I am. I'm being authentic. And unless you are extraordinarily offended, and I will always preempt my swearing with, if this offends you, I want you to tell me, then I'll just be careful. And I so many times have had people be like, dude, I can swear like a sailor. I'm happy you told me. I'm glad you do it. So it's okay. It's really okay to be yourself. Um, you can be shades of yourself. And that's what I've learned to do rather than mask and change, is just dial things down a little. Um, have different shades of who you are and bring it down a little bit when the situation requires it. Like, I'm not gonna go when I worked at FEMA, I'm not gonna go to Capitol Hill and talk to Senator Schumer and throw F-bombs. I get that that's not appropriate, but I am gonna probably try and sneak in a joke. I probably will take a very dry topic like levies and try and make it interesting and a little humor along the way, because that's who I am. Um, so that was a lot to say. Be yourself and love that you're yourself. Another thing that I really think you can do that's important in being authentic is learn to tell stories. Everybody has a few stories that you like to tell, and be okay with sharing some of those. Decide how much you want to let people in to your life. I share everything. It's just kind of how I'm programmed and who I am. I'm a sharer. And I will tell you the story about the squirrel running through my house, the deer who hit my car, the cow that chased me, all of those. I will also tell you the story of sitting with my mom at her bedside when she passed away and holding her hand. I'll tell you a lot of stories. If I see something relevant in my life that I think sharing would help you, I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you a story. And I think when we share ourselves through stories, you build a bond and you show who you are, and is probably one of the most authentic ways you can connect with people. So learn to tell stories and be vulnerable in that moment. So 2 pieces of advice, 2 tips and tricks that I work with my clients on. First, let me start with use your strengths. I did another video where I kind of talked about similar to what I said before about Strengths Finder and Everything Disc, and so those kinds of assessments, and how you use those to develop your leadership style. So I'll post a link to that video in the comments also. But what I think is important is you look at, what are my strengths? What are the things that I feel I am really good at, in a variety of ways, right? From your technical expertise to your relationships, to how you communicate, to just how you feel about different situations and interactions. How do these strengths then lend themselves to various leadership styles? I'm a very empathic person. Every assessment I've ever taken really leans into the fact that I'm empathic, and there is an empathetic leader style. There's coaching leadership style, and I've always gravitated towards those because that's who I am. I don't try and say I want to be this type of leader and I need to grow these other skill sets. I think the best way to go is to be authentic to who you are and develop a leadership style that lends itself best to your strengths and grow from there. So use your strengths once you know thyself is the biggest tip that I give my clients and what we work through in some of the programs that I work on. And the second is be you. Said it before, I think every piece of the way here. To be you, there's a lot that goes into it. You wouldn't think there is, but there is. You have to be confident. And a lot of us have our confidence weakened in the workplace over time, especially those of us who are women in male-dominated industries. You really start to get ground down in your confidence. There's also just bad things that happen as you are going through and experiencing work, whether you have a really bad boss along the way, you have a really difficult experience, something that's really confrontational, that really kind of break you down. And sometimes you need to build up that confidence again. So to be you, you got to be confident. In doing that, you also have to own your strengths and your weaknesses. It's easy to say I'm an empath, right? I very, very much am empathic. I'm hardworking. I'm committed. I am somebody who really is service oriented. And I've had some friends tell me that I'm very much a servant leader as well. Weaknesses. I am a squirrel when it comes to new things. I have a hard time focusing on the long-term project because the new shiny thing comes up here, and I want to look at this new shiny thing, and I want to look over here. So I am very aware of my weaknesses, and I am very vocal about the fact that if an assignment is more than 3 months in length, that I'm going to struggle if it's just monotonous. So I find ways to work within that frame and break it down into chunks, do whatever I need to do. But I own up to myself and to others around me what those weaknesses are, so that first we can get through those weaknesses. They can be detrimental to projects that I'm working on, but also so that people understand more about me and how to work better with me. and how I can work better with them. So when you're open and authentic about those things, you can get through those challenges and break down those barriers way quicker and way easier. And the third part of that is while you own your weaknesses, you also need to own your mistakes. As a leader, I think every team that you work with will appreciate so much if you say, hey, you know what? I own that. That didn't go the way I thought it would. That was my bad. This is what we're going to try instead. Rather than blaming, rather than assigning no ownership to it. Does that happen? Now we're going to move on, right? That avoiding what happened, any of that breaks trust, back to trust. So being authentic and owning up to your mistakes and how you're going to help the team right the ship goes a long way in being authentic, building that trust from your authenticity, and ultimately being a great leader. So that's really what I wanted to cover today. I see Vanessa had joined, so thank you, Hun, for being here for some of this. I really want to put out a call for anyone who's still interested in joining the Inspirational Leadership Accelerator. This is a program that focuses on women growing as leaders, becoming inspirational, inspiring their teams to action, and getting results. And one of the first things we work on is building your confidence and learning to use your authentic self to be a great leader. And as women, that's something that's too often beat out of us along the way in our careers. So if you want to grow your confidence, be authentic, and become an inspirational leader, schedule a call with me. I'm going to drop the link to my calendar in the comments, and also just put it up on the screen for anyone who wants to do that right now. Just type it right in. But that's all I had for today. Thank you guys for joining. If you're watching this in replay, leave me a comment about what maybe you found entertaining, what you know about me. If those of you, you know what, I think if you have ever heard me swear, you have to now like this video. So, I'm looking at 300 likes easy. Thank you guys for watching and joining. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.